NFT law and regulation. About myself, my name is José. I'm original from Portugal, but I'm based in Switzerland, in Zurich. And I've been a tax lawyer all my life, and then I fell into the rabbit hole pretty soon. And I've been completely on Web3 since 2017. So yeah, I've been working with some projects, some NFT projects. And the idea of this talk is basically to come with some issues that some creators, some developers have come across throughout their projects and try to identify some solutions. But just a quick disclaimer, this is not legal advice. I am not your lawyer. Please don't reveal any secrets to me because I cannot use them in my practice and we don't have an engagement of any legal practice. With that disclaimer, I will take some questions after. If you guys are interested in some specific topic, just let me know. So where are we at right now? So this is the first quarter 2022. We have seen new examples of NFT use, and some projects have been using this technology within different spaces, which has deployed different issues, totally different issues, legal issues that need also to be resolved. So we've seen NFTs that were mainly used with digital assets, with digital representations of assets, to IP protection, data embedded in NFTs. We have seen other projects regarding, is that okay? Kind of, yeah, no feedback. Regarding so different spaces, NFT curational, ticketing, food, galleries, DeFi, social media, etc. So the space is actually exploding. But now we are witnessing a bear market, and we all know also that NFTs are not so at hype right now in terms of value. We were expecting this year to reach the 17 billion. Not sure that's going to happen anymore, at least if things continue as they are right now. But still, just in 3 years, the market went from 41 million to 2.5 billion. So it's worth a shot. Some concepts that you guys already know, for sure, but we actually need to context this in terms of legal concepts in order to frame all the issues that we might come across during the NFT frameworks. So scarcity, you know that each NFT is unique. Immutability, we can't change them once it's registered on a blockchain. Provenance, it allows us to verify the origin, authenticity, ownership of the NFT, as well as any associated physical or digital goods, and traceability. So it allows us to access to any information regarding not only its origin, but on the chain of transmissions, which could be very useful if we align NFTs with physical goods. This is pretty cliche, but I think it represents pretty well what NFTs are about. So it's basically a certification of authenticity and origin, which is embedded in digital assets. For the first time, it is possible to register information regarding the origin, the creator, who were involved during the process in the digital asset itself. So it's as it would be like a blue validation ticket on the digital asset. With that said, we came to the conclusion that right now there is no legal framework for NFTs. There's no specific legal framework for NFTs. Not just yet. So there is an effort in the European Union to approve a regulation that would be valid throughout all the European Union members that would try to regulate the markets in crypto assets. It's called the MiCA. It's still in approval period. They expect it will enter into force until 2024. Although, if we go through the text of this project, we realized that the crypto asset concept embedded in this proposal, it does not contemplate yet the nature of NFTs. Okay, so there is no specific framework, there is no specific conceptualization, legal conceptualization of what an NFT is. I hope that until 2024, and since this document is still under discussion, we will come to approve further improvements on the text of this document. So in order to classify and to try to analyze the concept of non-fungible tokens, we have to start with the concept of fungibility. What are fungible assets? What makes them different from NFTs? So fungibility means that the assets can be determined by its gender, quality, and quantity when they constitute the subject of trade. It doesn't matter if I give you €5 in the banknote I have or another one's banknote, because what it means is the gender, the amount, and the value which is embedded on that concept of fungibility. It's not like that with non-fungible tokens. On the contrary, non-fungible tokens means that I want that specific asset which is registered on a blockchain, that I can identify it and I can actually relate to it. So here we go on the three answers when we try to discuss what do I get when I buy an NFT. So every time I'm interested in NFT, what am I actually buying? So we have three options here. So whether the NFT consists on a digital work itself, so it's what I call the pure NFTs, the ones that are only limited to the digital asset. They are not related to any physical or digital asset at all. They are not, okay. They are not related to any other physical asset at all. They do not represent any type of rights, any type of claims. They just represent themselves. So it's a physical existing asset that it resumes to itself. It doesn't go further than that. Okay? That's the first option. Second option is when you have NFTs representing the rights concerning a physical asset or a digital work. So you have any type of physical work, and we have an NFT that represents, it could be a copy of it, could be an artistic representation of that work or that asset, but the difference is that they coexist themselves. So you have to relate one to the other, its representation and its asset itself. Third option, you have the possibility that you are buying both. So you buy a bag which has an NFT attached to it, which is a registration on the blockchain of that bag. So you can prove, or you can actually confirm its authenticity, where it came from, who owns it, and how much you paid for it. Very important for all of you artists and creators out there. It is important to have a legal agreement whenever you sell an NFT. Some NFT marketplaces already make available some templates regarding the NFTs they sell by default. Very important it is to have in mind that whenever you buy an NFT, you're not buying any right related to any physical or digital asset itself. Okay, so you need to have an agreement. If you have like the second or the third option, you need an agreement that states very clearly what are the rights that you're buying into. Okay? So by default, ownership of the NFT does not necessarily contain the ownership of physical or digital work, or even the IP rights inherent to that work. So, licensing. And there's where the tricky part starts. So the relationship, and we have to start with the relationship between the creator, the artist, for instance, whoever is trying to create and let's just focus a bit on the art NFTs. When an artist that doesn't have any technical background, they want to create and register the NFT, which is related to its art, and they engage in a relationship artist developer to create the NFT of an artwork. So we should start by defining that relationship in an agreement. So where would they have joint ownership of the IP? Would it be like a services agreement in which the artist pays out the developer for one-shot service contract, and the developer will not have any IP right regarding that NFT which is created within the artwork? Or would that effort from the developer, that work from the developer, also be subject to IP protection law as an author himself? All these relationships should be determined also by a legal agreement, I would say. So nothing easier than to sit down, ask your lawyer to draft a couple of clauses in which you put it very clearly what is the relationship between author, creator, developer, creator, or not. He might not be just a creator, he might not claim any rights, but he still would be an author of that code if it consists of code, or just a simple registry on the blockchain, okay? So, after that, we could distinguish the type of licenses between would be an exclusive license. Are you actually selling out an NFT and the relationship with the buyer and seller will extinguish right at this moment and doesn't have any further development? Or you're just bringing out licenses for different people that they could actually use themselves also in a further chain of relations. First and foremost, we need to determine if the person that is selling out the NFT actually has the right to sell that NFT. And we all have come across multiple examples in which the people which is creating this new asset is actually copying IP from other person. But they're being the first ones to register on the blockchain and trying to take profit from it by creating a new asset, which is actually a copy protected by IP rights from another person. So be sure that by selling NFTs or allowing or promoting the sale of NFTs, you have actually resolved the first assumption that it is that the creator of the NFT is actually not infringing any IP rights before that. And then this is just an example of a limited license. It's just a use case in which is granted a limited worldwide revocable and non-transferable license to the owner of the NFT, use the NFT as for its own purpose, for its own use, and not for public display, and not for any type of artistic, economic exploration or deployment. So it is very clear, and you can actually add this on your license, that no reproduction of the original work is otherwise permitted under the license. So you have actually a contractual agreement in which you try to prevent copies or non-authorized copies of your artwork. And then also include a clause that allows you to also to prevent derivative works or modifications of your artwork. that is also possible in a limited license. So what is the owner actually entitled to do when he buys an NFT under this limited license? Claim ownership. He can say, and he can actually inform the world publicly that he owns that NFT. He can display the associated work under the same terms of the limited license. Okay, so if you as an artist, as a creator, are limiting the exhibition rights of that NFT, it has to be stated very clearly, and the buyer has to accept that. Otherwise, he would have more rights than just use the NFT by himself. Sell, transfer, or otherwise dispose of the NFT as any other asset, physical asset that he might have. Very important is also for you to try to limit the responsibility and the liability as a creator or as a creator of the NFT or as an artist of losses and damages related to the ownership in case there is a security flaw or something that is associated with a network, or in any claims that might arise also from IP infringements from other third party. That also may arise on that. Also, no warrants regarding the value of NFT. This is also very important because the markets are very unstable, and the NFT that is bought now or were sold a couple of months ago, I'm sure that right now would not be the same price. And also, the creator would not be responsible for the technology transfer, maintaining, storage, security, and the burden of that should be transmitted to the buyer, to the new owner, okay? What is very cool about this technology, and we all know about that already, is that it allows that the creator, the artist, would be automatically paid in succeeding transmission of the asset throughout its life, would be paid a fee. So it is possible to program on a smart contract the percentage of royalties per each transaction that would be automatically paid to the original and first and second creators and promoters of the NFT. This was something that is already in place for many years in some jurisdictions. The problem was, until now, the implementation and enforceability of this right that the creator and artist had. So it was very, very difficult to have the information of further transmissions of artworks, because most of them were not disclosed. And secondly, it was very, very difficult also to enforce that right, that percentage. You would have to engage a lawyer, go to court, etc. Blockchain now allows that the smart contract automatically programs the transfer of a percentage of each transaction to be immediately allocated and transferred to the original artist and owner. So, regulation. Are NFT securities or not? They can be. They can be. When there are some rights and claims associated with the NFT. When there are when the NFT is does not consume by itself in its own NFT. It's not a pure NFT. When there is a promise of airdrops, of receiving dividends, of receiving money just by owning that NFT. You're actually promised someone, that could be depending on the effort of any third party or yourself, that whoever is buying that NFT would have a profit. In that case, would automatically be a security, no question about it. So yes, it depends on the nature of the NFT. We are also witnessing now a new context of Genesis Mint of NFTs, which is basically an ICO throughout NFTs, but the regulators, they actually are aware of that. But it would depend how you do it and in which jurisdiction you are doing it. If you actually KYC who's ever minting though and involved in that genre is mint. Please be aware of that. And then we all know as well that fractionalization of NFTs is basically selling securities as well. We all have heard of some examples on that. Since we're in Germany, what's the context on NFTs, taxes and regulations? So pretty recently, just approved in June 2021, the new law makes it very clear that securities can be issued in digital documents, digital asset papers, okay? So this would be something that is correlated to NFT trades, since if you're issuing any type of crypto assets, whether they're fungible, non-fungible, this would be applicable also as to non-fungible assets, as other assets. We're going to look at it very, very shortly. But there is no legal definition of fungibility, as I have mentioned previously, unlike other jurisdictions in which there are some, in the civil code, there is a clear definition with what is a fungibility, which allows us, by a contrario sensu, to determine which is a non-fungible asset. In 2018, there was an exemption here in Germany from the regulator, like stating that, well, we have to go through case by case, so otherwise all NFTs would be securities, and it could be the case that we're, in the case of pure NFTs, in the case of the nature of the NFT does not compromise any claims further than that. In that case, there is space not to consider all NFTs as securities. What about taxes? This was just issued on the 10th of May. This is very important, and Germany here is actually moving and taking a step ahead of other countries in Europe by determining that if you hold crypto assets for at least 1 year, you would not be subject to capital gains. Regarding NFTs, VAT exempt, and please be aware that as a creator and receiving royalties, you would have to pay taxes on the royalties you receive on that. So there is some uncertainty with income tax. It could be included in a company. For some creators, they actually go that path of creating a company and promoting and selling NFTs within that company as any normal trade. I would recommend that also in terms of a liability, but you have to consider if in terms of expenses and profits it makes sense or not. What are special risks? I promise this is the last slide. I think that we need to have some more certainty in terms of legal framework of how to consider in terms of regulation, taxes, and so on, this new type of non-fungible assets. There is the high risk of price speculation, as we all know, and also the risk, which actually demands for some consumer protection, the cases in which there are some rights, claims, conditions attached to the sale of that NFT. And also the security issues of any chain in which you're creating the NFTs. Thank you for your patience. I think we have 2 minutes for any questions that you might have.
Yes. What is your opinion about the European law perspective on the tokenization of assets? Do you think there will be more progress?
No, I think that overall tokenization of assets is already a reality. So we would come to a point in which we would have real-world assets to be tokenized, and both assets would coexist. So what is yet to be defined is what would be the relationship between the assets and its tokenization of assets, if they're possible to be traded on a secondary market, if there are any claims, rights, and so on attached between one or the other, or if they just exist separately. But yeah, I think that.
Hi, I'm a blockchain consultant that works normally with regulated entities, publicly traded companies, things like that. And I'm very familiar with a lot of this, but as when you're in conferences like this, you hear about a lot of projects and you talk with a lot of people that are maybe not aware of this or trying to shut their eyes to these things.
Totally, yeah.
And these tend to be like two different camps. And I was wondering if you could maybe just tell us sort of in your experience, what types of things do you say which you find convincing to people to embrace this regulation and to embrace the processes which lead people to being sort of compliant? Is there something that
it's very
grabs
simple.
them?
Well, once the litigation starts and the new cases, no, it's true. Until the first cases come to court, everybody is at ease. They never think that it will happen to them, and then the new cases come, and then they are serving as examples that they need to take some measures for that. The NFT cases are actually some of them. We have the Hermes Rothschild case that was filed in January, for instance. For those who are not aware of that, it's the case in which a creator in the US created the NFT Birkin. It's called Meta Birkins, which is replicas of the Birkin bag, the Hermes Birkin bag, to be used on the metaverse. And there was a civil case filed by Hermes against that author in order precisely to prevent him to use those assets as new category of Hermes assets in the metaverse. So this type of case and the amount of values they are claiming are so high that make the promoters and developers and creators say, hey, better talk to a lawyer first.
Yeah, so before you were talking about terms and conditions when selling NFTs, but I was wondering how do they extend into the secondary market? Like if I'm releasing a project under this and that terms, you're purchasing the NFT and you're putting it into a secondary market, how do they, go downstream to all of the buyers?
When you launch it on a secondary market, as a principle, you have to agree with the secondary market terms and conditions. Okay? So you can have NFT private sales with limited licenses that you can easily agree. Some authors, some rights you can't dispose, like the creators' rights and so on. But once you put them on the secondary market, some rights are by default determined on the secondary market. It could be some space in which you can actually upload a template or even create or embed in the NFT some of the terms and conditions in which people would use that, but very rarely people don't do that. They just use the terms and conditions of the secondary market. Yeah, totally. But that's the price you pay by selling on the secondary market. I'm not sure if I have time for all of these questions. I don't. But I'll be around, so I'm free to talk to everybody. And although it's not legal advice, I'll be happy to reply to some of your questions. Thank you very much.